everyone, and welcome to the Great Couch, where we will discuss all things ABA, entrepreneurship, and lifestyle. We have a very special series that will be dedicated to parents as well as parents of children with special needs. Today, I am excited to have Dom Shorter-Taylor join us on the Great Couch to discuss self-care and balance. So Dom, can you please tell us about yourself?
Thanks for inviting me. As she mentioned, my name is Dom. I am a board certified behavior analyst, just like Nandi. I am an entrepreneur. I am the co-owner of Beyond ABA LLC here in Chicago. What else? I'm also a mother. I have 2 boys, an 11-year-old on the autism spectrum, and I also have a 3-year-old. I am a teacher. I teach and I'm a special ed lead at a school. And I also have a YouTube channel, as if I'm not doing enough. But the YouTube channel is really near and dear to my heart, because the reason I created it is because even though I was BCBA in the field, I felt alone as a mother of a child with autism. So, there are a lot of stats out there how Black boys or Black children get diagnosed later in life, or it's misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. Like I was that person. And my BCBA credential didn't mean anything when it came to receiving services and a proper diagnosis and feeling like I had a community for moms of young moms like I was of children with autism. So that's kind of why I created Dom, the BCBA Mom. Just to highlight our journey, just to, have some parenting tips in there for mothers and parents of children with special needs and autism, or, just with some behavior concerns. So that's how that started. And it kind of spiraled into something bigger than that, really just bringing more young clinicians to the field of ABA, helping to diversify the field of ABA. So the YouTube channel has been just an unexpected blessing and task that I just threw on my list. So yeah, long story short, that's me. I'm Dom.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the thorough introduction. It seems like you said, you have a lot going on and a lot on your plate. I think that you're in a very unique position as well, with being a clinician and a business owner, as well as not only a mom, but a parent of a child with special needs. So what does balance and self-care mean to you?
That is a really good question. Balance and self-care. I feel like I found self-care later in life. I was always a person, I was raised by a single mother, raised by Black women, and we could just handle it all. We can take it all. We can endure. We're strong, we're tough, and all of these things that go along with this. So that's how I lived my life until I got to a place where I wasn't taking blows as well as I did in the past. Things were affecting me mentally. And here I am, a mental health professional, and thinking that I can just, fix myself, and going deeper into a hole. So it wasn't until I was pregnant with my second child. I was working full time. I was huge. Like I had gained 60 pounds during this pregnancy. I was in so much pain. And still working with my clients, I was diagnosed with depression. And that's when I realized, like, okay, Dom, you can't help everyone else until you start to help yourself. So I started making it a priority for me to set up boundaries, to tell other people no, to stop enduring things just because it's normal and we used to do it back in the day and Big Mama did it and Mama did it. No, and I started doing it not only in secrecy, like seeing a therapist in secrecy and meditating and yoga and praying about it in secrecy, but I started telling more people about it and normalizing it, because the more we keep it in, the more we still think it's like a shameful thing to deal with mental health issues, especially being a clinician. You're like, nobody's going to come to me because they don't think I have it all together.
Right.
But I feel like I'm better for my clients when I prioritize self-care. So whatever that looks like, after I started seeing my therapist, I started incorporating a regimen and a routine. And just like I have a routine to do homework and to eat and to go to bed, I have to make time for that regimen. It looked a lot different than it did in the before the pandemic, but I still prioritize that as much as I prioritize being a mother or being a BCBA or being a wife. I prioritize my self-care as well.
Right. And I think you brought up a myriad of great points just with, the first question, like, one big takeaway is the importance of caring for yourself, because I think a lot of times, as professionals or as mothers, it's so important that you're pouring into others and then you neglect yourself and you don't realize until it's too late that you've neglected
It's too late.
Right. Yeah. And I think the other piece is the stigma surrounding mental health and mental health treatment or counseling. And I think that is also something that's really, really big, because it's, you mentioned that you were doing this in secrecy. And, I would assume that the reason for you doing this in secrecy is due to the stigma that can be associated, or the judgment per se, that you're not able to handle it, being that you're having to go to someone else to help you handle whatever the load is that you have on you. And what I also gathered is that with you taking that time to reflect, taking that time to, seek therapy, you were able to begin to create a bit of balance in your life. Is that accurate, or?
Yes. No, yes, you're absolutely right. And that just really catapulted it. So I always embedded a little bit of, for example, my very first real job out of undergrad, my very first supervisory job, was very flexible. And just watching my mother grow up, my mother, just like you, she was a social worker. She was a clinical social worker. And my sister and I, we would always just be at her office. We would always hang out with her. She would always take us to work with her. So I would always just see how she had a slow morning. She would always say, well, I'm going to be in the office around 10:30. I'm out in the field today. I'm going to go see a client around 11. But she really left the mornings for us and for herself. And so I had a little taste of that in my early career as a case manager. And I knew that that's exactly what I needed and what my family needed in order for me to be whole. Okay. So even when it comes to my career, I give it all. I probably am a workaholic. I overwork, but there are certain times of my day within work that I am intentional about taking that time for myself or for my family, like having my slow mornings or my flexible mornings.
Okay. And how did you go about creating this? So you mentioned that you got some pre-exposure in your young years, and when your first job, you kind of mimic what you saw your mom doing to an extent. So what was that process like to begin to create your self-care plan, and what does that look like to present day, right? We're in a pandemic, so like I know you mentioned it looks a little bit different, but what exactly does that look like, and how did you go about creating it?
That is a really good question, and hopefully I can send you some links, because I like to vlog it. I think videos are worth like a million words, so I do have some vlogs on just ways that we created our self-care regimen prior to pandemic and what we're doing now, how we're adjusting to the new normal. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get up early, and that means I go to bed early. And I used to, so before I committed to getting up early, we used to have horrible mornings. So I mentioned that my 11-year-old is on the spectrum. We've grown leaps and bounds in transitions and maturity and doing things that we don't want to do. But there was a point where our house was chaotic, especially in the mornings when it's time to get up, get ready for school. He hated school. It was just so many things going on. And I would leave the house yelling at my husband because I felt like he wasn't helping enough, yelling at my kids before I sent them to school. It was just not conducive to the peace that I wanted in my life and the peace that I knew God had in store for me. So I started reading The Virtuous Woman. I know we all know the scripture, but it kind of spoke to me in a way of kind of like what we do in behavior analysis. We don't write the treatment plan for the client. The treatment plan is really for the parent or for the caregiver to carry out. And then everyone else will respond to that. So with me reading that, I knew what my purpose was as a wife and as a mother. It was for me to bring peace into my house, which was getting up early, making sure everyone had a meal, because that can, attribute to behaviors and crankiness, and just setting the tone in the morning, whether it's music or worship or reading devotional scriptures, or just making sure that I got up early enough to make sure Dom was okay before I had to pour into my kids and then have to pour into my clients.
Right.
So getting up early was one. Reading devotion is one, because it just puts me in a mindset of, I've already had my talk with God and we know what's going to happen today. So nothing else is going to really bother me. And then just doing that. And then the boys will kind of mimic my behavior. I was their model, and now they get up and they ask Alexa for gospel music, and Christian gets up and he helps me cook. And my husband, he'll help every now and then. But, I couldn't dwell in what was not going wrong. And yes, am I stressed out? Absolutely. I have so much going on, but you can't wallow in that. What are you going to do to fix it? So I noticed those mornings, once again, for me, has been really crucial. Another thing that I had to do was I had to commit to a job that had a flexible schedule. So you probably think I'm crazy, but at one point I had 6 jobs. And one of them, and purposely because I'm an entrepreneur. And when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes it takes a year or so for the business and to profit. But you still need to have time to commit to the business. So I took on different contracts all over the city. I took on other jobs. I started teaching part-time, just doing all of these other jobs. But in order for that job to make my list, they had to be flexible with the fact that I have a kid at any point. I may need to be called to the school. I may need to go on a field trip. I may need to, I'm a part of a lot of boards and committees. I may need to do work over here. I'm a volunteer at my church. So I just needed flexibility to do the things that bring me joy, to do the things that help other people, but also bring in income. So I strategically found work or a career that allowed me to have flexibility so that I could say, I need a break for 2 days. A lot of people can't just say, I'm not going in for work for 2 days. But for me, in my unique experience, if I don't schedule a client for 2 days, I have a break for 2 days.
Yeah.
So that's really why I am committed to this field, because I can really create it how I need it to be to benefit myself and my client and my children.
Yeah, absolutely. So in those moments, when you begin to feel unbalanced, or, you have your self-care regimen, or, you've tried your best to create the ideal daily life and, employment situation for yourself. But in those moments when you do feel unbalanced, or like things are getting heavy and stressful, what do you do?
One thing I've learned to do first is solicit help, whether that's from my business partner, from my husband, from my sister, or just solicit help and just telling people, like, I'm setting up boundaries right now. Like, one time I had to tell my sister, and I felt bad afterwards. I said, I don't have energy for no one else but the people in this house. And she felt bad. I felt bad for saying it, but I had to be honest that I need to get my house in order first, myself in order, my mind, before I can take your phone call and your Zoom call and go to this drive-by baby shower and go to, you know what I'm saying? So the pandemic has been adjusting. It's been readjusting to I have been pouring a lot into other people, and this has allowed me to see the people that are inside of your house and the people that you are quarantined with and sheltered with is for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that you should be pouring into the most. So I feel like I was able to learn my children a lot more during this pandemic because I set boundaries and I said it's just us four and no more, just for a while, until we can get to a place where we can start, you know, being a blessing to other people, because there are a lot of people looking at us as a young married couple,
Mm-hmm.
as a blended family, as an entrepreneur. There are a lot of people looking at us and they're ready for us to slip up and poke holes. So I'm like, no, our foundation has to be solid before we decide that we're going to go out and, you know, do God's work, help other people, whatever, what else that we need to do. Another thing, so soliciting help, that happens a lot. And then within a new marriage, we've been married for 4 years, that's intimidating. Yeah. Because when my husband married me, he married me thinking I was a strong woman, right? And so then these layers start coming down, and then you realize, like, I'm not that strong. I need help. I hate asking for help, and just being okay with, you know, receiving help and not taking on everything.
Right.
I take breaks from my family. Mm-hmm. I like to think work is a break for me. So working from home, I used to think it was a luxury. Now it's like, ugh, I need to get out of this house. So whenever I do go and I see my clients and I go on campus and I do other things, that is my way of recharging, because I do love what I do. I take breaks from my family. I do deal with mom guilt. I feel like we all do. But when I am with my kids, I know I give them all of me. So I don't really take as much guilt as I used to, because I know my son is well. My son is doing fine. My husband's got him. I got a support system. We've built a community. You know, I can rest easy knowing that I've done the initial work.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, I think that, you know, you brought up a great point, and it was going to be something that I had intended to ask you, is the piece of guilt, right? So I know some parents may become guilty with going back to work, or, you know, having their children go to daycare or to school, or them having to dedicate their time elsewhere aside from their household. So I would like to just hear, you know, how did you manage to, I know you mentioned, you know, being at ease with knowing that your home or your family and your children are okay. But what about the guilt that may come into play when you're having your self-care moments? Can you talk to me about, you know, what that may look like?
Nandi and I did a collaboration entrepreneur webinar, and I spoke on self-care as an entrepreneur. And even when talking about that, I said I suffer from lower back pains and I see a chiropractor. And I would see my chiropractor every Monday, and I would have a deep tissue massage afterward. And then I would have people calling me like, how dare you be laid out on this luxurious bed getting a deep tissue massage when everyone is grinding and hustling and working, and like, I really sat with that for a long time. Anytime I would take a long lunch, anytime I would just close my computer and just do something, like it's punishing. The world punishes you for self-care. They see it as being lazy, as not being a strong Black woman, as not enduring what generations of Black people have done. Like, how dare you take some time for yourself? But my therapist told me that it's all about self-preservation. And if I didn't want to be here for my kids and my grandkids, and I want my business to thrive for generations, I have to let go of that stigma that taking care of yourself is a luxury. It's not a luxury. It is a priority. Wow. And it is years and years of deconstructing that mindset that taking care of yourself is something that Black women don't do. And I am committed, just like breaking the stigma of therapy, I'm committed to breaking the stigma of self-care, because therapy is a form of self-care. Right. So if I have to do a million videos about it, shout it to the rooftop, you know, lay out in the middle of the street with my yoga mat, I will, because I want people to know that I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we'll normalize it. And then everyone else is like, I like to garden too. And then someone else will say, I sing and hum to myself too. I like tea. I drink this. I go for walks. I go for hikes. And we'll talk about it. And then we are no longer the only ones doing this. We have now formed a community of mothers, women, Black women, entrepreneurs, whomever, who prioritize self-care. Like, it's going to be the thing to do. And I have to adjust it now because of the pandemic. So instead of going to the gym, I go for walks. Instead of going to yoga class, I do yoga in my living room. I also got my clients doing yoga now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So I have to be a model for them as well.
Yeah. Want to say that I think that there at times is a general lack of understanding as to what it means to engage in self-care tasks. I feel like a lot of people think that self-care may be, needing to take yourself to dinner, going to the movies, getting a luxurious massage, or, getting pampered. When self-care could be literally you taking 5 minutes to yourself, or you just sipping a cup of tea or taking a hot bath. So I think that a lot of the examples you gave also help to kind of, normalize that self-care can be super simple, and it doesn't have to be something that is costly, or it doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of your time. And another piece that I just wanted to say to you is that I just really appreciate your, transparency throughout our discussion today. I definitely think that, everything you have said brings value, not only because you're a mom, but also an entrepreneur and a BCBA. So I think that, your ability to still manage, and prioritize yourself with having all of those roles and responsibilities is really, really big, and may can help, others see that, what, I may not have as heavy of a load as Dom, or my load may look a little bit different, but if she's prioritizing this, I can too. So just my last question to you before we end is, how do you encourage the parents that you may be working with in your private practice to prioritize their self-care?
For me personally, I can only speak from my experience. It's really easy for me to relate to parents that I work with because I am a parent. Mm-hmm. And although I don't lead with that, it naturally comes out in our conversations. So it's really easy for me to empathize with the parents, and let's just have a natural conversation of what my self-care looks like and how simple it could be, just like you mentioned, or we all even do it together. So I know I mentioned I sometimes I have my clients, and we are known for going for walks. Like, I am that walking BCBA. Mm-hmm. But I'll say, hey, Mom, Dad, why don't you come for a walk with us? Why don't you get on the floor with us? Why don't you listen to music with us? Why don't we all do this together? Just so they can, not only is it, incorporating them doing it with their kid, but hopefully it's also exposing them to things that bring them joy that they can do together, that is hopefully easing that stress level. Right. But that's usually when I would maybe even bring on another third party, maybe some continuity of care, if it's something where I feel like, no, you need your own personal therapist to really, create your own treatment plan of what self-care looks like, because I'm only limited to the resources that I have and the experience that I have, but I'm willing to share everything that I have. But I do know that everyone's self-care regimen should be individualized. It's no cookie cutter. Some people hate warm baths. I used to hate baths, and now I love it. So I'm not going to be like, no, if you don't take a bath, you're not taking care of yourself. Yeah. So I just encourage them to just have the dialogue of, if you could be doing anything right now, anything, what would you do? And some of them say, like, I will be binge watching Insecure. Well, that is your self-care, sweetie. Right. Go ahead and do that. Yeah. It doesn't have to look like what other people say it looks like. Just normalizing it and say, you deserve that. It's really about knowing your worth. And when you know your worth, you know that you deserve to be taken care of first.
Wow, awesome. You have just given so many wonderful gems just throughout our discussion. And I am so thankful for you and your experience and your expertise. So, with that being said, if any of the people that are watching this want to get further connected with you or want to reach out to you, what are your social media platforms where they can connect with you, as well as your email address?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you can see me anytime on my YouTube channel. That's Dom, the BCBA Mom. Please subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Dom underscore the BCBA Mom. You can find me on Facebook as Dominique Taylor. My email is Dominique at beyond-aba.com.
Thank you again so much for joining me on the Great Couch. I am almost certain that this will be of value to anyone that is watching, and I can't wait to see you again sometime soon. Thank you.